Merry Christmas, YouTube. Bacon here bringing another video. This one gonna be my semifinals matchup for the VPL. I think last time I said semifinals versus Dick, but that was quarterfinals. The video was labeled appropriately anyways. But this one's the actual semifinals match versus John. So this is the third season in a row that we have played John in the semifinals of the VPL. First year he beat me, second year I beat him. He's 2-1 against me in the league itself because we played during the regular season this time, and he beat me 1-0. Really close match. It basically came down to me sacking Nidoking when I should have been sacking Tapu Koko, and then I wasn't able to end up breaking the Clefable on the back end. So really close game there. I'm expecting kind of no different here. I think in general, John has a pretty good matchup versus my team. Just kind of like the specific mons he has are problematic. I've made a couple changes since last time, most notably being the addition of Kyurem Black. Actually, that might be the only change since last time, is the addition of Kyurem Black over Zygarde, which I think improves my matchup a little bit, because Zygarde I just don't think does very well versus teams. He's got things like Gliscor, Chestnut, Clefable, Mega Lopunny, Hydreigon. Like, it's just not a good look for Zygarde in this matchup, but Kyurem Black I think has a little bit better of a matchup on paper, so that I think helps the matchup for me, but it's still, I'd say, not in my favor. So looking at what he brought last time, or just his team in general first, he's got Clefable, Gliscor, Chestnut, Tentacruel, Bronzong, Raichu, Mega Lopunny, Hydreigon, Reuniclus, Barbaracle, and Moltres. The only difference from last time is he's dropped, what did he drop for Reuniclus here? I had it written down at some point. He had Nihilego, and he dropped that for Reuniclus. So that's the only difference from last time. So overall, the matchup really hasn't changed a whole lot, in my opinion, because he still has like a T-Spike user in Tentacruel. He's still got plenty of Rock Setters. It just means that that kind of specially offensive threat, the fast specially offensive threat, is gone and replaced by a slower one, but with a Reuniclus, which can also run a lot of viable bulky type sets. Pokemon that I had in the ABC, pretty familiar with it. I know pretty much what it can do. OTR Reuniclus is pretty scary versus me. Like Psychic, Shadow Ball, Focus Blast with Trick Room could be devastating. So that's something I was actually really scared of coming into the match. But otherwise, just was kind of expecting pretty much the same team as last time. Sans Chestnut. I think Chestnut makes no sense versus me based on how it performed last time, and also that I no longer have Zygarde, I have Kyurem instead. That's something that just kind of baits in Nidoking anyways. I can get it on U-turns from things like my Greninja and my Tapu Koko. Last time I ran Choice Scarf Greninja, so he might not want to play the game with U-turning out into Nidoking and having to sack something anymore. So I don't think he would bring Chestnut, but pretty much any of his other Pokemon are viable substitutes in my opinion. Raichu maybe less so, like a Choice Scarf Raichu I could kind of see, or maybe Assault Vest, but I wasn't really expecting the Raichu too much. But I was expecting Clefable, Gliscor, Bronzong, Mega Lopunny, and Hydreigon all to return. Clefable I think last time was Wish Protect, Toxic Moonblast. Gliscor was something like U-turn, Earthquake, Stealth Rock? No, Defog. I can't remember the exact Gliscor set. Toxic maybe from last time. Chestnut was something like Drain Punch, Spikes, Leech Seed, and Synthesis, or no, Spiky Shield. Tentacruel did not come. Bronzong was Stealth Rock, Toxic Protect, Gyro Ball. Mega Lopunny was something like High Jump Kick, Return, Fake Out, and Ice Punch for my Zygarde. And Hydreigon was Z Fire Blast with Draco, Roost, and Dark Pulse. So I'm expecting, like I mentioned, a very similar team this time around. Things that could change: Mega Lopunny won't need to run Ice Punch this time. I expect that to be substituted out for either Power Up Punch, Drain Punch, or Substitute. Bronzong, I'd expect a pretty similar set. Gliscor, I'd expect a pretty similar set. Clefable, pretty similar, I expect. I think the Gliscor, though, last time he didn't creep my Nidoking, and he got Ice Beamed because of it, so I could definitely see him running a little bit more speed on the Gliscor this time, just so he can outrun me and get off an Earthquake. It shouldn't knock me out from full, but I think that's something that he would value this time around, so he doesn't have the same issues with Nidoking. Everything else, I think, he doesn't have to bring the same sets, but he definitely could if he brought the same stuff. So that's kind of going into the matchup, things that I'm kind of learning from here. thinking about as I'm going into my build. So let me go through the team builder really quickly. Brought back Tapu Koko again. This time, instead of the Z Wild Charge set that I brought last time, I brought Choice Scarf Tapu Koko with Volt Switch, Dazzling Gleam, Thunderbolt, and U-Turn. Probably like, Mark, why didn't you run HP Ice for Gliscor? Well, I don't really feel like... if I'm clicking HP Ice versus Gliscor, I'm basically predicting it to switch in, right? And I can do that, yeah, sure. I can predict him to switch in and him with HP Ice, potentially 2-hit KO him. But I'm going to have to make that prediction more than once during the game, right? It's like, if he comes in on HP Ice, he's going to double out into like Bronzong or something after eating one. He's not going to just sack his Gliscor, right? So I'm going to have to make that call more than once during the game, potentially as many as like 3 times if he gets a roost off or whatever. I don't feel like that's worth it to me. I would rather click U-Turn on a Gliscor coming in, to be honest. Like, even though U-Turn does basically no damage to that thing, I'd rather go for U-Turn, get in something like Greninja or Kyurem Black, and just go ham on his team. So I think I don't need HP Ice, and if the Gliscor's down, Volt Switching around his team is really valuable. The nice part about it being Choice Scarf is I threaten out the Mega Lopunny, and if I can be threatening that thing out with the Volt Switch instead of threatening it out with U-Turn, that's going to make a huge difference, because my risk reward there is a lot higher, or a lot more in my favor if I'm able to use Volt Switch over U-Turn, because if he even stays in with the Mega Lopunny, Volt Switch is going to do like 5 times the amount of damage that U-Turn would. So I think overall it's more valuable than having the HP Ice on there. And because of kind of just how the speed tier shook out, I didn't have to run a whole lot of speed on this to outrun his team. So I've just got 96 in speed and with the Timid Nature, max special attack, and like 160 HP EVs, which means I can technically live Fake Out into return from Mega Lopunny. Not that I expect to be kind of having an issue with Mega Lopunny Fake Out into returning me, because I am Choice Scarf, but that's just something to consider there. So yeah, that's the Tapu Koko set for this time. I think it'll be a little more useful than it was on the last occasion. Next up here we got Mr. Freeze, the Kyurem Black. This is a Icium Z Kyurem Black with Ice Beam, Fusion Bolt, Substitute, and Freeze Shock. So last time John brought Protect on 3 Mons. So I'm hoping I can get up a Substitute versus one of them, or potentially against Gliscor, predicting him to switch out. And then Kyurem Black can just wreck his team. So kind of the idea behind this set was, when you're building a team, you're not just manufacturing your team, you're manufacturing situations, right? So one situation is Tapu Koko U-turns on a Gliscor switch in, and I get in Kyurem Black, right? Not only is that good for me because it's basically a free substitute, I don't think he'd risk his Gliscor, especially early in the match. So that's one kind of aspect of it, is basically the free substitute. But what's his likely switch into Kyurem Black? It's probably Bronzong, right? It's Ice Resist, pretty bulky mon. But with Electric Terrain up, I should 2-hit KO most variants of Bronzong with Fusion Bolt. So if Tapu Koko's just been on the field, like just set Electric Terrain and U-turns out, I can sub up and then 2-hit KO Bronzong with Fusion Bolt. And getting through that thing is really nice for my team, not only because it's kind of a bulky mon that can switch in on my Icium Z and things like that, but it's also likely to be his Stealth Rock setter. So I can, instead of forcing him, if he comes in and I can force him to try and break my substitute versus setting Stealth Rocks, that's a huge win for me. So substituting early in the game could be really nice for Kyurem Black. I can 2-hit KO the Bronzong with Fusion Bolt, and I can play around with the Clefable a little bit. If I think he might have Protect on it again, I can Fusion Bolt first to scout out whether he's going to go for Protect, and Z Free Shock should nuke that thing. I'm actually running Lonely Nature Kyurem Black instead of Naive, which means I get a little bit of extra damage output on my physical attacks. So max physical attack, Lonely Nature with a lot of speed. The way I could speed crept this is I was expecting him to take his Moltres if he brought it, and his Gliscor, and creep down to my Nidoking. So I just crept 1 speed point or 2 speed points or something above that with my Kyurem Black. If I get outsped by Gliscor and killed or something, I'm going to be really upset with myself. But I think that was kind of the play there, as far as the speed creeping goes, because that extra damage output severely improves my roll on Clefable with Z Free Shock. So basically I think Z Free Shock does something like 97% minimum to physically defensive Clefable from this Kyurem Black. I think otherwise the minimum's something like 88 or 85%. I can't remember the exact roll, but it severely improves my roll on a full health max Phys Def Clefable. I am kind of expecting him to run Magic Guard as opposed to Unaware, because last time he ran Unaware for Zygarde. This time I don't have the Zygarde. I don't really have a whole lot of setup threats on the team, so I was expecting him to run Magic Guard this time, which means hazard damage wouldn't be chipping it down and getting it in range of my Z-Freeze Shock. So I think every bit of damage was helpful there, and it again also improved the Fusion Bolt rolls on Bronzong if he's running like a physically defensive variant instead of specially defensive. Next up, we brought back Frogchamp the Greninja, coming again to every game this season so far. Greninja's got Life Orb, Torrent, Dark Pulse, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, and Water Shuriken. If I'm in Torrent range, Water Shuriken actually, if I get 3 hits, does about 50% to Mega Lopunny. If I get some good luck, I can do even more with that with Water Shuriken. So that's kind of the idea, is if I can chip it down with like a couple of U-turns from Tapu Koko, get it to come in on some hazards damage and stuff like that, it might actually end up being in range of Water Shuriken. So I've got a couple options this time to kill the Mega Lopunny as opposed to just one. Last time I felt like my Mega Lopunny plan was kind of suspect. I had like Rocky Helmet Claydol to chip him down a little bit, and then the idea was basically get him in range of Choice Scarf Hydro Pump from my Greninja. So not really the best look in terms of trying to kill the Lopunny. This time I feel like with Choice Scarf Koko, which can almost OHKO it from full with Dazzling Gleam, and then also Water Shuriken on Greninja, I think it's a little bit better contained. Like I mentioned, I do expect him to be running either Pup, Substitute, or Drain Punch. Drain Punch would be particularly problematic, especially looking at the last matchup where I had the Rocky Helmet Claydol. He might run Drain Punch just so he can keep himself out of range of like a Choice Scarf Greninja. I could definitely see that happening, so I felt like this was a more kind of reliable plan to deal with that. Also, I could 2-hit KO Clefable on switch in with Hydro Pump, which I failed to do last time with Choice Scarf Greninja. So like I made the right prediction last time, hit it with Hydro Pump, but it was still out of range of a second one. Physically defensive Clefable does not switch in on Life Orb Hydro Pump. I should do like 60% to it. If he's running some Def Clefable, he'll still eat it, but that's also kind of good information for me to know. It means I'll guaranteed knock him out with Kieran Black's Z-Freeze Shock, or even maybe be able to 2-hit KO him with Fusion Bolt, something like that. Would be pretty nice for Greninja. So Dark Pulse is just really nice to hit the Reuniclus and the Bronzong specifically. You should hit those things really hard. Life Orb guaranteeing that I 2-hit KO Bronzong with 2 Dark Pulses. So maybe not after Protect. I'm not actually sure on that one, but definitely improves my rolls at the very least. I think the Life Orb damage output's going to be very much appreciated. I would even 2-hit KO if you went the especially defensive Chestnut route. Again, I would 2-hit KO that thing with 2 Ice Beams. Next up here, we got Drop It Lock at the Klefki. Leftovers, Prankster ability, Thunder Wave, Spikes, Play Rough, and Reflect. That fourth move, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with it. I considered Defog, but I'm like, well, if I'm setting Spikes, do I really want to be running Defog? So I ultimately went with Reflect. I felt like Reflect was, in general, more useful because you've got things like Mega Lopunny. This is kind of the primary switch-in to Mega Lopunny, because I can threaten him out with a Thunder Wave or a Play Rough. You shouldn't want to stay in on that, because if I T-Wave his Lopunny, Greninja just goes ham on his team, basically. So I'm thinking he should want to switch out, but even if he doesn't, Reflect is kind of a good middle ground play. That means his damage output will be halved from the Mega Lopunny if he actually decides to stay in and attack me. Spikes are nice just to kind of predict the Gliscor switch in. So the Gliscor is obviously a huge problem for this Klefki set. Last time I thiefed his Toxic Orb, so I didn't think he'd want to go hard into his Gliscor unless his Toxic Orb is already activated. But otherwise, that thing can come in on me all day. But if I set Spikes, it's going to be forcing him to defog at some point in the match, or at the very least, he might be more incentivized to stay in and Earthquake me or something like that to prevent me from setting up more hazards on him. So that was kind of the idea from Klefki, and also I kind of realized from last time that what I needed from Klefki in terms of Hydreigon was more its natural resistances, being the Dark and Dragon types, as opposed to its actual bulk. So he Z-Fire Blasted me and OHKO'd me last time, right? And I expect if he runs that again, or like Life Orb Fire Blast, it's still like Klefki's still not a reliable switch in terms of that. It's more of like a pivot into him to make sure he's not going for a Dark Pulse or a Draco Meteor. So I can eat those anyways, because even though I'm physically defensive, just because of my natural Fairy and Steel typing. So I think that's kind of the idea from Klefki here, is to pivot in on the Hydreigon and bait out a Fire Blast so I can get into the appropriate response. But Hydreigon's still a huge problem for the team. Next up here, we got Kingpin the Nidoking. Same set I brought last time, with the exception that I knocked down my speed a little bit. Last time I was improperly speed creeping Tentacruel, so I was intending to speed creep min speed Tentacruel last time, but I was speed creeping, like I didn't realize I was speed creeping timid Tentacruel as opposed to neutral natured Tentacruel, so I was like, I'll just speed creep that. If he brings Tentacruel, I expect him to speed creep my Nidoking anyways, just because of how much of a problem it was last time. Same deal with the Gliscor. So I was thinking, why bother when I can just run a bunch of bulk on it, and I can live things like Fake Out into return from Mega Lopunny. So that's kind of the idea behind the Nidoking. So I'm running very little speed, 40 with a timid nature, 216 in HP, and then the rest dumped into max special attack. So Ice Beam, Sludge Wave, Earth Power, and Fire Blast just hits his team incredibly hard. I wanted to kind of run sub Nidoking because, like I mentioned, he did run Protect on a bunch of Pokemon last time, but I couldn't really afford to lose any of the coverage. Earth Power is really only there for Tentacruel, but if he does bring Tentacruel, I need that Earth Power. So it's kind of a toss-up as far as coverage goes, but I think ultimately I had to run these 4 moves as opposed to trying to slap on Substitute or Toxic Spikes or Stealth Rocks or anything like that. Last up here, we got Whitney the Miltank. So there's kind of been a joke or a meme or something that I bring Miltank every week, which is kind of true. We got Whitney the Miltank with Leftovers, Thick Fat. So I wanted to bring something that kind of ran counter to your usual expectations for my Miltank sets. So normally my sets are something like Stealth Rock, Seismic Toss, Milk Drink, Toxic, stuff like that. Things that are basically walled by Gliscors and Bronzongs and Clefables. So this time I was like, I'll show you a Miltank set. We ran Heal Bell, Milk Drink, Body Slam, and Curse. This is Max Spadef Miltank. It doubles as kind of a switch into Hydreigon and Moltres. So like I mentioned, Klefki can act as kind of a pivot on the Hydreigon if he goes for like a Draco or a Dark Pulse. I can go Klefki, eat the hit, bait out a Fire Blast, and go into Miltank on the Fire Blast. So I am Thick Fat. That should do basically nothing to me, and then he shouldn't be able to knock me out with the Draco Meteor after that. Even like Life Orb Draco Meteor shouldn't be able to knock me out. I don't think Choice Specs Hydreigon makes a whole lot of sense versus me, just because I have 2 fairies. So I think he'd be more likely to run like a Life Orb set if he's running that, or just run the Z Fire Blast set again. So that's kind of what I'm expecting, and Miltank should be able to eat 2 Life Orb Dracos from a pretty good range, as long as I Milk Drink on the first one. So that's kind of the plan with Miltank there. It's just kind of Milk Drink in that thing's face, get him to go for Draco, drop his special attack, and then I can get back up to full and start setting up curses. So what are your primary switch-ins to Miltank, right? You've got Bronzong, you've got Gliscor, you've got Clefable. Like I mentioned, I think the Clefable is going to be Magic Guard this game, so I should be able to curse up pretty freely. Even at -3 speed, I should be outrunning things like Reuniclus and Bronzong, assuming he's running no speed on them. And be able to just sit there, basically, and curse up. So Body Slam is really nice, because I can spread paras around his team. If his Gliscor's Toxic Orb is not activated yet, you can bet your butt I'm going for Body Slam to try and land that 30% para. Even if I don't get it, it's whatever, you know, so I can continue to set up on that thing. It really can't do too much back to me unless he's like a Sword Stance variant. So that was kind of the idea behind the Miltank there. I can curse up on Bronzong, I can curse up on Gliscor, and just break through them, which is really nice for the rest of my team if I can manage to do that. Also, I considered running Substitute over Heal Bell just because I felt like Bronzong was the most obvious setup fodder, right? And I can curse up 3 times on that thing and still be faster than it. So what could happen is I could like curse on the switch, sub on his Toxic, and then keep cursing behind a Substitute. But I felt like in the long run that wasn't necessarily the more sustainable option. Heal Bell gave me better general team support anyways, and it still kind of accomplished the same thing. Like Substitute's a little bit better for me in that respect, but I felt like it wasn't worth running in general. So I opted to go for Heal Bell over Substitute, but that was kind of the idea behind the set there. It's just kind of subvert his expectations and then break through something with Miltank, because that's not normally what you expect Miltank to do. You'd expect it to come in, set Stealth Rocks, and then switch out because it's afraid of getting Toxic or something like that. So that's kind of the idea behind the Miltank. I think it can be pretty effective this match, and after that kind of long-winded intro, we're finally going to get into the match. Sorry for the kind of long prelude there, but I wanted to kind of fully go through my thought process and rebuilding this team for a matchup I'd already played, essentially. And and kind of the situations I was trying to manufacture throughout the game in order to try and pick up a W here, or at least have it be a close game in what I think is a very bad matchup. So getting into it, he's got Bronzong, Gliscor, Reuniclus, Lopunny, Clefable, and Hydreigon, so not too different from what I expected. I could have seen him subbing out Reuniclus for something like Tentacruel, maybe Moltres or Barbaracle. I could see, but I think this 6 makes plenty of sense just on paper. Like I mentioned, I was 100% expecting him to bring Lopunny, Clefable, Gliscor, and Bronzong. It's just kind of a matter of what he decided to do with the last 2. Hydreigon's still a huge threat to my team, and it is kind of a nice offensive check to the Kyurem Black. If he didn't bring that, he actually would really only have one solid offensive check to Kyurem Black, which would be the Lopunny. So I think it makes sense that he still ended up bringing it. So yeah, just kind of looking at team lead here. He's got a couple options to lead on his end. Last time I led with Klefki on his Lopunny, and he had to switch out. And that's what kind of prompted the Thief on the Toxic Orb from Gliscor. So I think he might want to try to avoid that situation again and lead Gliscor entirely. So I think it's probably in my best interest to just lead Tapu Koko. Like I mentioned, I'm trying to manufacture that situation, right? Tapu Koko has come in, set electric terrain, you turned out on Gliscor, and gotten me into my Kyurem Black or my Greninja. So Greninja actually looks pretty good versus team because he didn't bring like Tentacruel, for example. So his only Hydro Pump resist is the Hydreigon, and if he's not running Choice Scarf Hydreigon, I can just Ice Beam that thing on the following turn if I Hydro Pump it. So Greninja's looking really good versus team, basically. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lead with Tapu Koko here as he leads with the Lopunny again. So not a great lead for me, but not bad. Like, even if he fakes me out, I'm staying in this turn, so I'm clicking U-turn. If he fakes me out, he's definitely going to switch, I feel, on the next turn, because he's going to be like, why would he stay in on me, right? And he doesn't want his Lopunny to get weakened this early in the match. So I'm going to U-turn out as he just hard switches out into his Gliscor, potentially fearing me to have like Rocky Helmet, Klefki in the back, not wanting to fake out. So I've now manufactured my situation. The Gliscor is in. I've got my electric terrain up, but I look at his team and I'm like, Greninja, right? Like, what's he gonna switch in on a Hydro Pump here? Hydro Pump is basically free. What's his best option? A Clefable to go into? That thing's 2-hit KO'd by Life Orb Hydro Pump. So I'm just clicking it, and I miss. So this is, I'm gonna pause it here. I missed the Hydro Pump. You know, I haven't missed a lot of moves this season, but this is like a huge miss because he risked his Gliscor here, thinking I'd probably U-turn out to try and get some more momentum. But Hydro Pump, the min roll on max Spadef Gliscor is 97.7%, and you can see he's at 94. So that thing was dead. Like, that was a dead Gliscor. That was a free Volt switch every time Tapu Koko came in, and I missed. So that sucks. So the Gliscor is still alive here. He U-turns out and also gets some decent chip off on my Greninja, which is very unfortunate. So rough turn. I'm definitely a little tilted at this point in the match, still playing. He gets out his Lopunny for free. I have to go Klefki here. Really unfortunate that I missed that Hydro Pump, but we gotta try and recover from it. So I gotta go in Klefki here as he's just able to freely click High Jump Kick because he is anticipating that I'm not Choice Scarf Greninja. Correctly anticipating that I'm not Choice Scarf Greninja. So he just goes for the High Jump Kick. Even if I was Choice Scarf, actually, he would live a Hydro Pump. So free High Jump Kick for him does a huge amount of damage to my Klefki. I'm just going to set Reflect here, so I'll live another one, and I could potentially spike up as he knocks me out or something like that the following turn. So I'm just going for Reflect on the Gliscor, switching in here. Get a little bit of leftovers recovery on the Klefki. And now I'm just going to go hard Kyurem Black. Like, Gliscor is in. What's he going to do? He's going to Earthquake, he's going to Stealth Rock, he's going to do defog that screen away. I don't know, but I'm going hard Kyurem Black. We're getting some damage off right now. So he goes for the defog here to get rid of the Reflect, and Kyurem Black is in. Kyurem Black is now, but I don't have my electric terrain, so I'm not going to substitute here, predicting a Bronzong switch in. I'm actually going to double out into my Greninja because I do anticipate him to go hard Bronzong here. So double out into my Greninja and correctly predict the Bronzong switch in. So now I can Dark Pulse. Like, yeah, I can Hydro Pump here, but in a prep match, Jeff actually stayed in with Bronzong to set Stealth Rocks on my Greninja. So I'm just going to click Dark Pulse here, scout out what the Clefable is, whether it's Spadef or Fizdef, which is still important information for me to get, and it turns out he is a Fizdef Clefable. So Dark Pulse coming out here, doing some good damage to it, and you never Moonblast here, right? Like, the obvious switch in for me is Nidoking. You either double out into Gliscor or something like that, or you stay in and go for a Wish. So I'm going to Hydro Pump and do a huge chunk of damage to this thing. What this does is, one, puts me in Torrent range, which is really nice. So I should be able to knock him out with another Hydro Pump. So he is absolutely forced to protect here. Absolutely forced to protect with this Clefable. So I can freely switch out into my Nidoking. as he went for the wish there, and now he has to protect. So he protects with his Clefable. Still had a nice amount of HP, and here's the deal. Sludge Wave is super obvious, right? So he's got a couple options. He could go Gliscor, or he could go Bronzong. What I'm thinking he'd do is pivot from Bronzong into Gliscor, expecting me to have Fire Blast. I just raw Fire Blast here with my Nidoking. Like, what's Clefable gonna do to me, right? So I raw Fire Blast. It turns out he's AV, or I think AV Reuniclus. Based on that damage, it's technically a roll for Max Spadef Reuniclus, but I think it makes more sense that he'd be AV. So I gotta go out and Klefki here, predicting a Psychic move as he just goes for a knockoff. So good play, removing my leftovers, and that of course would have removed my Life Orb as well from my Nidoking, which I didn't want to happen. So I'm just gonna spike up here, and I'm predicting Gliscor switch in as he just goes for Shadow Ball. So he seems content to just knock out this Klefki and trade for a little bit of hazards, because he can defog them away with the Gliscor later on potentially. So he's just going to go for Shadow Ball, be able to 2-hit KO me. I'm going to go Tapu Koko here, kind of risky, but I didn't expect him to go for knockoff because it absolutely was not going to kill Klefki there. So I don't mind taking a little bit of damage on my Tapu Koko just to reset terrain here and get some chip damage off on this Reuniclus. So I'm going to U-turn out, do a decent chunk of damage, and now he's below half. Like I mentioned, I think he's Assault Vest Regenerator, so he's going to be able to get some of that health back. But any chip is good chip to try and kind of incentivize this thing to get out of my face. So he went for knockoff. Removing the leftovers for my Miltank here. I'm not playing so well. Like, I didn't pivot this very well, right? But I got the Miltank in, and now I can curse. So he goes hard Gliscor. I curse up, and now he's got to be scared. Because, like, Gliscor presumably can do very little to this Miltank. Especially now that I'm at +1. So I'm just going to curse again right in his face. He goes for U-turn, does very little to me. And now he's got to go Bronzong and Toxic this. So this is basically exactly the situation I wanted. I wanted Miltank to start breaking through either Gliscor or Bronzong, right? So now I'm at +2/+2. I should still be faster than this Bronzong, assuming he's running min speed for Gyro Ball. So I'm just going to curse one more time in his face as I am faster, and he goes for the Toxic. So I do have Heal Bell on this Miltank, like I mentioned. That would have been the situation where I would substitute, and I would have been in a really good position if I had kept substitute on this thing. But it's still okay that because I have the Heal Bell, so I can pretty freely either Heal Bell or Body Slam here. I'm going to Body Slam first because the toxic damage hasn't started racking up too much. I can scout out the Bronzong a little bit. It looks like he's more specially defensive as he just goes for Stealth Rocks, and I get a little bit of chip off. I'm also trying to paralyze this thing so I can get some free turns eventually in this kind of exchange, because it's obviously going to be a very slow whittle with Body Slam versus toxic damage and everything. I'm going to Heal Bell this turn. As he goes for Gyro Ball, maybe not expecting me to have the Heal Bell because I hadn't revealed it yet, but he goes for Gyro Ball, and now I'm sitting in a pretty good position with the Miltank. I can go back to full here because I do want to be outside of range of Hydreigon's Life Orb Draco Meteor, like I mentioned, which should do about 70% to me at max. I think 72 is the max roll there. So I'm going for Milk Drink as he goes for another Toxic. And here's a turn where I can Body Slam. He's shown Toxic, Stealth Rocks, and Gyro Ball. I'm still thinking he has Protect for his last move, but it's a pretty free Body Slam here for me. I can once again try to paralyze this thing, potentially, which would allow me to get more curses up on it if I want to. So go for the Body Slam, don't get the para yet. Unfortunate, I do want those free turns at some point, but I'm pretty content here to keep spamming Body Slam and stuff at him. I don't want him to get in something like Lopunny or Hydreigon for free here, so I'm going to go for another Body Slam. He's getting pretty whittled down with his Bronzong here, which is great for me. Like I mentioned, that thing's kind of a threat, especially to like my Kyurem Black, so now he's actually in range of a Z-Freeze Shock, or at least Z-Freeze Shock into Fusion Bolt. Or even just an electric terrain boosted Fusion Bolt, since we know this is Spit Up Bronzong. So I'm going to go for Heal Bell again, remove this Toxic. He makes the right play here and spams Toxic at me. But since I've reset the timer on the Toxic, I can Milk Drink this turn and then Heal Bell later. So it's kind of a slow back and forth here with the Bronzong, but all these plays are like very important, right, that I get these correct. He does show the Protect now as I Milk Drink, which is great. So that was just a free turn for me, basically. And now I have the option to either Body Slam or Heal Bell here. I am out of range of a Draco still from the potential Life Orb Hydreigon. I'm out of range of anything from Lopunny. So I'm just going to go for Body Slam here as he goes for double Protect, not wanting to waste Toxic PP, I guess. But I think Toxic has 32 PP, so I'm not really sure why he didn't Toxic there, but I'm just going to go for Body Slam. Again, potentially getting that para. I still haven't gotten it yet. I think that's 3 Body Slams or 4 Body Slams now. I haven't managed to get the para, but here I'm pretty much forced to Heal Bell as he goes for Protect again. So I win that Protect guess as well. Not really sure why he didn't click Toxic that turn, but the heal bell there is really nice for me because I'm still potentially out of range of Life Orb Draco. Like I mentioned, 72% is the number we're looking at for that max roll. So go for Body Slam again, weaken this thing a little bit more. So the idea is basically I know when I'm not going to be able to knock out the Bronzong and when I'm going to be able to heal up on it, right? So I know I'm not going to knock him out with Body Slam that turn. I'm just going to go for a heal bell here. So I know I'm not going to knock him out with Body Slam anyways, but he's in range of 2. He goes for Protect. I actually went for Milk Drink this turn because I didn't want him going Hard Hydreigon. So even though this looks like kind of just stall back and forth, there's actually some pretty significant implications to the moves I'm clicking here because I'm denying him getting in his Hydreigon. He can't really risk it anyways because if it gets parried, Kyurem Black becomes a huge issue for him. And here I'm going to Body Slam again, knowing once again that he can't die to it unless I crit him, as he just goes for Toxic. Again, we're hitting at that 70% mark here, so we're at 70%, potentially out of range of a Life Orb Draco Meteor. Here I'm going to Heal Bell, I believe, and this is the turn I needed. He misses Toxic this turn, I think, right? Yes, maybe? Yes, he misses Toxic this turn. This is the opening that I needed with the Miltank. I can go for Body Slam right now, knock this thing out. I'm at a very decent range to live the Draco from Hydreigon. I think it might be, I don't even know if it's a 25% chance to kill me from this range based on the roll. I think the roll was something like 61 to 72. So it might be something like a 20% chance to knock me out. So I'm going to take those odds here. Miltank's already done its job by removing the Bronzong, but if I can also remove this Hydreigon, that's great for me. So he goes for Draco, does reveal that he's Life Orb Hydreigon, as I went for Milk Drake. So this is amazing for me because he's not going to knock me out with another Draco, and even if he stays in to keep clicking it, he's going to keep taking Life Orb chips. So I'm going to go for another Milk Drink here, get right back up to full with Miltank, and what's he going to do? He goes out into Reuniclus. That thing is not a counter. Not a counter to this Miltank. I can Body Slam this thing and 2-hit KO it pretty comfortably here, which is what I'm thinking to go for. So I go for Body Slam. Turns out he has Focus Blast with Reuniclus. So he lands Focus Blast. Does a pretty good chunk of damage to me, but I'm sitting here like, Focus Blast is his best way to hit me right now. And he's doing good damage, but not enough damage, right? Like, I'm currently in range of anything from Hydreigon, so I'm just going to Milk Drink until he misses Focus Blast. Because as long as I'm above that magic 72%, he still can't knock me out with Hydreigon. So he goes for Psychic there because it actually wouldn't have even knocked me out, but he didn't really have a whole lot of reason to click Focus Blast there, so I'm just going to Milk Drink again as he goes for the Focus Blast. So lands another Focus Blast here. I'm like, I'm just going to spam Milk Drink until he misses Focus Blast. If he misses one Focus Blast as I Milk Drink, I kill this thing, and we're right back in the situation that we were in when the Bronzong went down and when the Hydreigon switched out. So I'm just going to spam Milk Drink at him. He hits another Focus Blast. Make that 3 Focus Blasts he's hit now in a row. So the odds are starting to get in my favor that he's going to miss, right? He's going to miss eventually. So I'm just going to spam Milk Drink in his face. Like, yes, I could get Spadef dropped, but he should, in theory, miss a Focus Blast before I get Spadef dropped, right? So he's hit 4 Focus Blasts in a row now. I'm just going to keep spamming Milk Drink. See that 73%? I'm still out of range of Hydreigon. He hits me with another Focus Blast. I'm like, come on, man. So I'm going to keep spamming Milk Drink at him. I'm starting to get really tilted at this point because I missed that Hydro Pump earlier, and he still has not missed a Focus Blast. Make that 6 Focus Blasts in a row he hits. That's an 8% chance to hit 6 Focus Blasts in a row. Like, yes, the Toxic Miss mattered on Bronzong. I'm not denying that because I would have dropped to that Draco Meteor. But I just got knocked out the Reuniclus. At this range, a Milk Drink's not even going to get me out of range of Hydreigon, and he's starting to get into the range where he's going to kill me with Focus Blast. So I just had to give it up there. Miltank did his job, flew through the Reuniclus and the Bronzong, and just now is going to die to the Hydreigon. So it essentially got off 20% on Hydreigon, killed Bronzong, and killed Reuniclus. Great job from Miltank this game. Like I mentioned, trying to subvert his expectations with the Miltank. We're on turn 42, damn. So, not thinking he'd want to risk his Hydreigon just yet because it's a great offensive check to my Kyurem and my Nidoking. I'm just going to U-turn out as he goes Gliscor, and I get a kill now, basically. So now I have remanufactured my situation of Electric Terrain is up, Kyurem Black is in on the Gliscor. I could substitute here, right? Because he definitely needs to save this for Tapu Koko so he doesn't get swept by a late game. So I could substitute here, right? And if I do, I'm in an incredible position. But if his sack is Hydreigon, it doesn't do much for me, and I'd rather have the HP so I can switch in on rocks a bunch later in the game. I'm just going to Z-move here. I get a KO, guaranteed, and it is the Clefable. So that's still good for my Tapu Koko because this and the Gliscor are really the only things stopping it, right? So I'm going to go for the Z Free Shock, nuke that Clefable on switch, and it turned out he was unaware Clefable. So I think that was a big misplay. He mentioned after the game was not going into Clefable on the Miltank. So he's able to go into Hydreigon. I've got my Klefki sack still in the back. Basically, the way I'm viewing this game right now is everything is a potential sack bar either Kyurem Black or Greninja and Tapu Koko. Two of those three are what's going to win me the game at this point. So Nidoking is a sack, and Klefki is a sack. So we're going to use the Klefki sack here, as he's able to knock me out with Hydreigon. Takes a little bit more Life Orb damage. He may have Roost, but I really don't care too much. The plan is basically to hit that thing with an Ice move on a kind of forced KO with Kyurem Black, or to hit that thing with a Dazzling Gleam from my Koko. So here I've got the option to go into Koko, but if he stays in, I don't want to use my Nidoking sack yet on a U-turn. So I'm just going to Ice Beam with my Greninja. Could quote-unquote have Hydro Pumped, but even in Torrent range, Life Orb Hydro Pump wasn't knocking out Hydreigon from 71%, and damage on the Lopunny is still useful for me, because if he doesn't have Fake Out here, I could knock him out with Water Shuriken. So this was my last switch in with Greninja, like I mentioned, because of the Life Orb damage. He's going to Fake me out, KO me. A little unfortunate that I didn't click Hydro Pump there, but I don't think it was worth risking, because if I removed the Hydreigon, I basically was able to force my KOs later in the game with Koko. Here's kind of another quote-unquote 50-50, but he really can't risk his Lopunny here, so I got another U-turn coming out for him. This is, I think, the third or fourth time that Koko's just come in and U-turn this game, but huge U-turn here. I get another KO with Kyurem Black. He can't stop me unless he's faster than me, and crisp me with Earthquake or something. Like, I've got Reflect up too, so there's no way he should be able to knock me out here. And I get another KO with Kyurem Black clicking Ice Beam. I think he should sack Hydreigon. So I'm just going to click Ice Beam. There's no reason to click Substitute once again, because I, again, am not anticipating him to sack his Gliscor here. So he sacks the Hydreigon here. So now he's got Gliscor and Lopunny, which could still do it versus me, especially if that Gliscor happens to be faster than my Nidoking. We saw on the double out earlier that my Kyurem Black is actually faster than his Gliscor, which is something I didn't necessarily notice during the game, but after the game, retrospectively, I noticed that I doubled out with Kyurem Black before he switched out with Gliscor. Here I'm expecting Fighting type move, right? You don't Fake Out. I don't think there's a reason to Fake Out, and even if he does Fake Out, that doesn't do a whole lot to me. I'm going to go hard Nidoking, because A, it's my quote-unquote sack in the back, which could set up a 50-50 U-turn versus Dazzling Gleam here versus the Lopunny. Or he Drain Punches me, and now I'm potentially out of range of a return, because he would have needed like a max rolled KO with return there. He does not get it, and Nidoking kills the Lopunny, so we win at this point. If Nidoking's not faster than the Gliscor, Kyurem Black definitely is and knocks him out. But this is why we invest our Mons, people. That extra HP investment from Nidoking versus last time changed that from a guaranteed return KO to a roll in my favor, basically. Like, that 216 in HP meant that the max roll, I think, was 70% on my Nidoking there. So he basically needed a max roll to KO me with return there. Because he did not get it, Nidoking's able to clean up the game. It turns out his Gliscor was probably like max Pidef. So too slow to outrun my Nidoking. And yeah, we're going to pick up the nice close 3-0 win over John. So 3-0... I think anything 3-0 or below is generally just considered to be a close game in my eyes. Like, in this case, it was a really close game because a lot of my Pokemon were chipped in the back, and it potentially could have come down to a 50-50 with the U-turn versus Dazzling Gleam on the Lopunny there. So really close game to John. Every time we play John is really fun, really close games. GG to John. He had a great season regardless of coming up a little bit short here in semis, but still went 8-2, I think, during the regular season. Great player, and I'm sure he'll be back again next season, sitting in the semifinals once again. Maybe we'll play him for a fourth time in semis, but definitely, of course, hoping to get the rematch. Now that we are 2-2 in Draft League versus each other, we're going to need yet another game to break that tie. So thank you guys all very much for watching to this point. Hope you're hyped for finals, and once again, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody if I don't send out another video. Yeah, thanks guys. Bye-bye.